Let's get ready. So 2 o'clock. Well, welcome everybody. Yes, we are here to interview Mr. Greg today on, what he's going to be doing, coming up for the new year. But listen, my name is Cynthia. I'm the CEO of Alive Studios and better known as Chief Zookeeper of our 3D augmented reality zoo animals that teach reading and math. So they're crazy. And of course, everybody I think knows Mr. Greg, full-time kindergarten teacher, curriculum developer extraordinaire, and international speaker. So we're real excited to have him with us today. And so Greg and I were talking a couple of weeks ago, and Greg was just sharing, some of the, I don't know, just what people are worried about, teachers and administrators, for this crazy COVID-19 time that has hit us. So Greg, why don't you share from your heart? And here, let me say this to you guys. We don't have slides on this presentation. I know it's a little risky, but I didn't want to box Greg in with slides. So I'm going to try to follow along with him on my website to give you guys visuals. And then you can always go back to it later and go, what were they talking about? So eventually I will share my screen when we get to that point and hopefully be able to follow along with that as a visual. So yeah, Greg, so why don't you just share what you feel everybody's been saying and feeling about this time right now and where we're headed.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. So, I spend a lot of time in teacher Facebook groups because you learn a lot. Like there's so much information and so much collaboration that happens in these groups. And so I spend a lot of time in these groups. And the thing that really has been permeating these groups over the past few weeks has been, what are we going to do when we go back in the fall? Because we've had a 10-week gap. And so there's this concern, basically from all teachers that I've talked to, from what I've seen on social media, is that, our kids are going to have this 10-week gap when we enter school in the fall. And so that's really what people are concerned about. Like, what are we going to do to make up that gap? How are we going to address this gap? Because, even though there's remote learning happening and distance learning happening, it's not the same as being in a classroom. I think we can all agree with that. And so the concern is we're going to have kids coming into, I think, more so first grade and beyond, that are 10 weeks behind where they would be in a typical school year. Kindergarten, I don't see that happening as much because it really depends on your preschool pre-K population. So for my school, for example, it won't be such a gap for us because a majority of our kids don't go to preschool or pre-K. So we won't see that so much in our kindergarten at my school, but I know a lot of places will see that in kindergarten because they have a lot of kids coming from pre-K or preschool. And then of course, first grade and beyond, they're definitely going to see that gap, that 10-week gap. But one thing that I think is comforting, if that's the right word to use, is that every single teacher in the country is starting in the exact same place next year. Every one of us. We are all going to walk into those classrooms and we're all going to have our kids who are all 10 weeks behind. They have that 10-week gap. And so it's not just some of us have that, some of us don't. We're all going to have that same starting point. And so we're all going to be in it together. And so I think that, to me, that's comforting, knowing that it's not just me and it's not just my school or my state, but we're all there in that place together. It's scary, you think about the requirements and the push for data and test scores and all of these things that get hammered to us. And then you think about starting them already 10 weeks behind. That's scary, that's stressful, because then you start to really work up that anxiety about where do we go? What do I do? How in the world am I going to teach a whole year of kindergarten plus 10 extra weeks of material and content? And so it's a lot. It's a lot for us, for teachers right now.
Yeah, and we've talked earlier too about not only the learning gap, but then the kids not having routines or they forget the routines, behavior management, they're going
Yeah,
to be acting up more than
yeah, and
normal.
right. You think about it again, a typical school year. The kids have 2 months off in the summer, and then they come back at the beginning of the school year, and you retrain them, and you definitely see that transition. But now we're going to have 4 months of not being in school, and so yeah, I definitely think it's going to be a tough transition for our kids, just because they've been out of the routines and the processes and the structure, but also something that we need to talk about is the trauma. Is that all of us, our kids included, have been through this, are going through this pandemic and this trauma, and so that's only going to add to some of those issues when we start back to school. And so that's something that we're going to have to look at too, as well, is not only those behaviors that we're used to, the classroom management piece, but also that mental health piece, and those social emotional pieces that we talked about a little earlier too,
Right.
because we've all been through trauma and we all have anxiety, and so we're going to have to make sure that we're able to address those with ourselves, with our coworkers, and with our kids as well. So it's a lot.
Yeah, it is. And I think that's why this is a popular topic that we're having today. Now, you said your school district has 3 scenarios. You want to talk about your first one, or
Sure.
mention all
So
3 if you want to kind of break it
yeah,
down?
yeah. So and I want to say this because every day we get messages and emails and posts on social media wanting to know what I'm doing with my classroom next year. What changes are you doing? How are you going to address this to keep kids safe? And so right now, I'm not making any decisions. I'm not making any changes. I'm not planning for my classroom next year because I don't know. So I'm waiting on our district to put out the guidelines for our classrooms when we return. Once I have that information, then I can start to plan and prepare to prepare my classroom. Right now, I'm just not. It's too stressful. There's too much unknown to try to plan and say, oh, well, maybe I won't have this, and maybe we won't do these, and because next week something new could come out and I'd have to change it all. So for me right now, I'm just waiting. Once I have some information from my district about what we can and can't do in the classroom, then we're going to start to make plans and look at how the classroom is run and see what we're going to change. As of right now, our district position is that we are opening on day 1, that our opening day that is on the calendar, the first couple of days in August, I can't remember the exact date, we're going to open. That's the plan right now. If you look at the roadmap to reopening that Nashville is following, that would happen in phase 4 of reopening, which at this point, phase 4 will happen in June or July. So that would make sense that schools would open in August. So that's plan 1. We're opening on day 1 in August, probably with some safety measures in place. Option 2 is blended. So something where we're in school some days and then online learning some days. So it would be kind of a mix. And then of course, the third plan would be all online learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, and which nobody wants. I mean, honestly, like I want to be in my classroom. Like teaching is about interactions and relationships, and those are hard on a screen. So that's kind of where our district is right now. I'm planning to open on day 1, but we've got some contingency plans in place. If we do go to full online learning again, kindergarten district-wide will be using Flipgrid as our tool. But that's really all I know right now. So, and we have adopted a new ELA curriculum that we're supposed to start in August. So, that's going to be super fun as we're trying to figure this out.
Well, the good thing, at least, the stuff that you use with our stuff, Letters Alive, is all supplemental. So no matter what they throw at you for back to school, you have that standard.
Right. Absolutely.
So, do you want to jump into, so scenario one, you're going to go back to school in August, which, yeah, it's going to be here before you know it.
Right.
How are you going to engage your kids? You know, and you've been doing this for a while, but you know, now the kids are going to come back extra gappy. That's a thing. So tell us the day in the life. How are you going to, you know, set that up? What are you going to do?
So I think something, and this just kind of popped in my mind as you were talking about engaging kids at the beginning of the year. Something that we also are going to have to consider as we go back to school in the fall is screen time. And so now we're going to have kids who basically been looking at screens for 4 months, whether that's for online learning or whether that was for, you know, entertainment, because everyone needs breaks and parents need breaks and families need breaks. So that's going to impact their engagement in the classroom, because they're going to be so used to a screen or a device in their hand. And so we're really going to have to step up what we do when we head back in a lot of ways. But, you know, we're gonna do what works, and we're gonna keep doing what has been successful in the past, because it works. And if it works, we don't need to change it. So we're still going to do our costumes, and we're still going to do our Foodie Fun Fridays. It may just look a little bit different, you know, but we're still going to do our dance parties, and we're still going to use Letters Alive because it engages kids in a phenomenal way. So all of those things that we're working, we're going to keep those. But definitely Letters Alive is going to play a huge role in our classroom when we return, especially when we're thinking about that 10-week gap.
Right. You know what? I share my screen and I'll bring people up to what we're talking about. At least I hope I will. Okay. Can you guys see that or no?
Not yet.
Yeah. Well, keep talking, Greg.
Okay.
Don't mind the wizard here.
The magic behind the curtain.
Yeah, right.
Which is, you know, this is exactly what happens in a classroom. Like, technology is amazing until an administrator walks in to do your evaluation, and boom, nothing. All the technology stops working every time.
Yeah, and if you're doing a Zoom class, and I have 600 kindergartner kids right now on Zoom, right? I'm losing them. But can you see that?
Yes, now we can see your screen.
All right, so now, I'm on my website, and so Letters Alive Zookeeper Edition, and that's what Greg was just referring to. And if Greg, if you want to talk about this and what you're using with the kids.
Yeah. So one of the things, like I mentioned at the start, is teachers are talking about what are we going to do to address this gap that our kids are going to have. And, you know, people are asking, you know, for resources and tools. Well, one of the tools that I will be relying on is the Letters Alive Zookeeper Edition, because it works. It's not some new thing that's being thrown out there. It's not something that may or may not work. This is something that this program, this software, I've used it in my classroom for 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah.
And you can see that on the screen. You can look at that 4-year average. That is from my classroom. 95% of my kids are EL. They come in to the classroom speaking little to no English. So we use ABC BootCamp. And then with ABC BootCamp, we're also using the Letters Alive technology piece. And you can see the results right there. That's why we're using Letters Alive to address this 10-week gap when we return, because it works. It is research-based. It is classroom proven. And in 26 days, look at that tremendous amount of growth. And so if you're thinking about this 10-week gap, a big part of that is going to be the foundation, right? Especially heading into kindergarten, heading into first grade, they're going to need something to solidify that foundation, those foundational skills. This is the perfect way to start the year in pre-K, kindergarten, first grade, when you're thinking about this gap that we have, because in 26 days, you're building a very, very solid foundation that you can really build on from there. And so that's why Letters Alive and ABC Bootcamp that's my plan to address the 10-week gap. So we'll use, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was gonna say we should probably give a little of the backstory because you've been using Letters Alive, like you said, for going on 5 years now. And then of course you had ABC Bootcamp. And I would go in and observe and watch you use your boot camp with our technology, and just the power of both of them together was very powerful, and the engagement was just off the charts. And it took a while, but finally we're like, you know what, should we partner together and use the best of boot camp and make it zookeeper-ish, right? Along with our animals. And we just released this Christmas, so right before the pandemic. We have the Zookeeper edition, which gives you this teacher field guide that Greg helped us put together. This is like something very...
Which it was great for helping with lesson planning.
Lessons. Yeah, and then there is his 6 weeks of Zookeeper ABC Bootcamp right there that we put all together for you guys with our technology. And one of the cool things we really like about this is we hired a videographer to go in and capture Greg and his kids on all the different things. It's raw, you know, they gotta go to the bathroom, it's all in there. We didn't really edit it. So we got modeling videos to show you guys how you can do it like Greg has been doing it to get those same results, especially, you know, again, filling that gap in for when these kids first come in. Then there's also another thing called Animal a Week, which is another 26 weeks, all aligned to the kindergarten ELA. It's supplemental, so you can use as much or as little as you want. But this has literacy centers, great writing activities. I heard, you know, somebody
a lot of people are talking about writing and how to teach writing. So this is a great way to engage kids in some writing.
Yeah, it's huge. STEM activities. We went a little nutty. 26 rhyming stories that have a social emotional growth skill that you can use. So you get all that in the Zookeeper, you know, with obviously this most popular thing here with Greg's stuff.
So, you know, the way that ABC Bootcamp works is it's basically a letter a day for 26 days. Sorry, the dog is barking. Well, Cynthia, you're the zookeeper, control the animals. So a letter a day for 26 days. For the first 26 days of school, we introduce all the letters and sounds. At the end of that, we run anywhere from 80 to 90% of mastery of those letters and sounds. And so the way that works with us is we do the letter, the sound, and the letter with our ABC Bootcamp with the circle chart and the hats. But then as part of that each day, we also introduce the animal from Letters Alive. And so for 26 days, they get to meet all of these animals. And of course, they're in this amazing augmented reality. And so they're 3D in the classroom. We also have the rugs. And so they're on the rugs. And so my kids really get to attach to these animals because we're seeing them every day. They're there on the rug as well. It's also funny, it takes them a few days to catch on that the animals that we're seeing on the screen are the animals on the rug. But once they pick that up, it's really funny to see that. But then going into those 26 weeks of animal lesson plans that you were talking about, like when you pull stuff from those, even if you don't follow all 26 weeks, you know, explicitly, but when you are pulling things from that, you know, especially the writing, because the kids are so attached to those animals, it really excites them and engages them. And that's such a key part of the learning too, is they kind of develop these little relationships with those animals. And so it works on some of those social emotional things, and it's great for writing as well. So
Yeah.
you're really, what we're doing with this in the classroom by incorporating BootCamp and Letters Alive is we're really building a good solid foundation that you can use for the rest of the year.
Yeah. Do you want to show the video of your kids? Like there's 8 seconds.
Yeah, go for it.
Of the engagement. Yeah, so hopefully the Wi-Fi is gonna be fast enough, but this is Greg showing Percy Peacock to the kids. And this is their reaction. Yeah.
I mean,
did that come through?
Yes, and that's the kind of excitement that you want, right? Like that's the engagement, that's the reaction you want from kids when they're learning. And so that really kind of tells you why I love Letters Alive, because you get those reactions every time with all of the animals. Some of the animals are more dramatic, so you get a bigger reaction, but the kids, that they love to see the animals. They're so engaged with the animals, and that's a big part of why it's so successful.
Yeah, you're creating this this Disney experience, right? They come in and you want to create this exciting experience. Another thing I want to bring up, this is an independent research. This was actually done by the university with the pre-K, 90 days, very similar results, right? 48%, 2 times gain for letter naming, 112% letter sound fluency. But what was really interesting was some other side highlights, and I want to show this to you guys. So there's the typical letter and letter sound, but the other one was classroom management problems decreased and students' attention span increased. So I was talking to Greg earlier, I go, this stuff you just don't think about, but boy, this could be so helpful for classroom management as well.
And like one of the foundations of classroom management is keeping the kids engaged, and that's a big part of that. And so this definitely helps with that.
Yeah. I don't want to jump around, but I thought about the rug. Do you want to, I could show a picture of the rug. Do you want to, I've been hearing like Philadelphia pre-K program is buying a bunch of rugs you've got the oval rug.
Yes.
Yeah, there's Greg. You can actually click on that and see a video of him using the classroom. Where's my oval rug? But anyway,
the rugs have an app, and they also have augmented reality. So when you use the habitat cards, so you can teach your kids the animal habitats, and when you put the card on the rug and use the app, the animal will actually pop up on your device in this 3D, and it looks like Gertie the giraffe is hanging out in your classroom, and so the kids can like walk around and you can take pictures with them. It's phenomenal in the classroom. And again, the kids know the animals, and so like when Gertie is there, and that's like mind blowing for them. So, but the way we use the oval rug, which looks similar to the circle rug, with all the animals and the letters, it has really made carpet time, that whole group time, easier for us, because I teach my kids, our carpet procedure is, if you're standing up, you put your feet on an animal. And if you sit down, if we're sitting down, you put your butt on an animal. And so it makes it, from the very first day of school, they learn to put their feet on an animal and they learn to sit their butt on an animal. Now they can choose whatever animal they want, that's up to them. But it's that classroom management piece and having that very visual, consistent tool right there on the floor. And starting with day one, they know every time they come to the carpet, they stand on an animal. Yeah. And I'm able to say, check your feet, put your feet on an animal. And so it really does help with classroom management, having that tool.
Yeah, and I had some teachers recently tell me, because instead of 20 kids coming into their classroom now, they're going to have 10, and they're using the rug, and they're just going to say, you've got Amos, you've got Celine, and they're kind of distancing them, and assigning animals. So there's all kinds of things that you can do.
And I'll say this, the rugs are beautiful. I love it. They're incredible high quality. They clean well. They hold up well. I've had mine for what, 3 years now.
Yeah.
I have the original, right? Like I have I have the first one that came off of
Lecture
the,
#1.
yeah. And so it's still there. I clean it a couple of times a year, and it still looks amazing. So they're good quality. They hold up very well. The kids love them. So if you're looking for a classroom rug, definitely check out the Rugs Alive, because they do not only are they in high quality, they're great carpets, they look good, but they do have that augmented reality piece. So it's a great tool for the classroom.
Yeah, another engaging way.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring up Gwinnett County Schools. This is a new case study. And this is interesting. So you think, oh gosh, okay, Greg, of course you can use Letters Alive and your boot camp. But what about somebody that is not Greg? And this is Bridget. She's early intervention program teacher, kindergarten. And she did this in the fall as part of our beta. And she watched all the modeling videos. And these are the results that she got very quickly. And her kids were already struggling. These kids are pulled out every morning for her because they're already at risk. So these are her at-risk kids, and this is what they were able to achieve in a very short period of time. And I love here, this is our interview with her, but number 2, this is what Greg was talking about, how she does a letter a day, the circle chart, the alphabet, and she's following, we did it all for you, so you don't have to worry about it, in a very simple format. And so that's very encouraging. I'm just as encouraged to see these type of results too, because who has time to figure stuff out? Just let me watch a video, let me model it, and get the results. So, and these are,
and again, when we're talking about this 10-week gap that we're all facing, we want something that works. We want something that's effective. We want something that's engaging, because we're really going to have to work to engage our kids, but we're also going to have to be able to find something that's highly effective, because we have to address that 10-week gap and address all of our other standards and requirements. And so that's why ABC Bootcamp and Letters Alive, that is how I'm addressing that 10-week gap with my kids. That's going to be my tool for addressing that. Lots of other things as well during that time, but this is, when we're talking about literacy and ELA, this is going to be my tool to address that gap, because I've seen it work. I know it works. It's proven, not only in my classroom, but classrooms all over the country. And it's research-based. And so that's what we need. We need something that's quick and easy, but also highly effective. And that's what we have with Letters Alive and ABC Bootcamp.
And there might be some people out there that already have Letters Alive or Learning Alive, and you can easily upgrade pretty inexpensively to the Zookeeper edition. I think it's just $295, and it gives you all the curriculum and the posters and all the goodies to easily upgrade. So keep that in mind, so nobody feels like they're left behind.
Right.
With that. So I think one of the questions I had was, other than kindergarten and pre-K, is this good for maybe first grade or other older ELL kids?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think especially this year, particularly first grade, this would be a great way to start the year. Like I think I mentioned this early, is building that foundation, making sure that you have that strong foundation as you start first grade. And then definitely for EL kids, it works great. There's a lot of opportunity to build language. There's you had it pulled up earlier where it talked about all the different literacy and grammar skills you can talk about with uppercase letters, lowercase letters, punctuation. And so definitely is great for EL kids. Like I said, 95% of my students are EL. They come in speaking little to no English. And so it's a phenomenal way to build language in the classroom, because it gets the kids to talk, and you can start to learn vocabulary. So it's definitely great for ELL. It's great for first grade, and probably
special needs.
Yep. And even EL kids, especially newcomers, even if they're a little bit older than first grade, this would be a great starting point for them.
Yeah, and summer programs too.
Yes.
If there's any summer programs happening, it's 6 weeks. It's perfect.
Yep.
Now I've had some people ask, can you use this remotely? So let's say, you know, you're only going to need the kids part-time, and the other time you're going to have to use some kind of distance learning. I've had teachers reach out to me recently saying they brought their kits home and they've been using it through Zoom, and it's been really helping with engagement. So I would have never thought of that, but that's, you know, you could use this for remote learning. So
Absolutely.
that's kind of cool.
That's, if we have to go to remote learning next year, I'll be bringing mine home and setting it up here at the house and using it remotely as well. So I mean, because it's so like video based, like it's going to be on the screen, it would be easy for distance learning.
Yeah.
And then there's also, if I can kind of skip ahead a little bit, there's also a way to connect that experience to home.
Yes. Which is a good segue. You thinking of the Zoo Crew Alphabet Show?
Yes. And I was thinking about the journals as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So we can go to that. So, and they kind of are together. We've got the journals that we want to talk about, and we've got our brand new Zoo Crew Alphabet Show. I mean, when the whole country shuts down and all of our customers are gone, what do you do? Well, we did a show. I have a studio here at the house, but you know, the thing is how could we wanted to know, how could we help teachers and recently even now parents with a free resource to with their letters and sounds. And so we came up with this, and Greg is, again, a mentor to me. I have an elementary ed degree, but Lord God, I haven't used it in a bazillion years. I've been out of the classroom for so long. So I've been watching the modeling videos and using our stuff. And so you've got a flavor of our 12 to 14 minute show on YouTube, teaching letters and sounds with our animals and social emotional with our unique stories. And you can actually download the stories for free. You can watch this on the YouTube channel. We've gotten all the way to Norwood to Norwal. We'll have a whole alphabet done July 1st. Zelda Zebra will be posted. So every Wednesday and Friday, we post a new letter and animal. And it's getting really good feedback. I hope it's helpful. You know, we don't really know what we're doing, but we're doing our best to give something engaging for families at home. But, and you've got it right here. You kind of see some of them, and you can kind of go through there. And what complements it is our journals. So yeah, Greg, if you want to talk about the journals, because you use them in the classroom, but I know we can use them at home. So I will get there. Those are your kids right there in your classroom. So Greg, you want to talk about the journals a little bit?
Yeah, so there's a math journal and the Letters Alive journal. And so they use an app. And so there's augmented reality built into the journals. And so I use them in my classroom for small groups. And so we work with them in small groups. So they're a great way to work with the letter of the day, or whatever, you know, letter or sound. It's great after the 26 days. With the boot camp, you can also use those as an intervention piece for the kids. But it includes the sound, letter writing. There's a writing component. There's some activities the kids can do with the letters and sounds. So they're great tools in the classroom, but they're also a great way to support your families at home, especially if we have to go back to kind of remote learning. If you are doing, you know, on Zoom or whatever, if you're doing Letters Alive, then if the kids had the journal at home, it's a great way to make that connection as well. But also, like you said, if for families now, it's a great tool. Yeah. And anything that we can give to our families right now to keep our kids engaged and learning, even through the summer, is going to help with that 10-week gap. And I know that we're used to the summer slide, but I think this year we kind of need to work to be more proactive about the summer slide because it's so long. So if that's a Letters Alive journal that the kids are working on at home, if they're watching the Zoo Crew show, if they're, read to your kids, reading to the kids at home, talking to them. One of the things that we're doing with Adeline, she's only one, but whatever she sees us doing, if she's watching Jason cook dinner, we talk to her about everything that we're doing. And we sound crazy when we do it, but that's how she's going to learn. And since she can't be out, having experiences right now, that's one of the ways that we are trying to close that gap for her, is that language process and talking to her. And so there's so much that we can be doing right now, and so much that we can be giving to our families to support them with that 10-week gap, giving them resources like the Zoo Crew show. That's a great way to kind of, again, to start building that foundation so that when we get to the fall, maybe we can alleviate a little bit of that gap. And so there are lots of things we can be doing to alleviate this gap. ABC BootCamp is, like I said, the way that we're going to be doing it, really hitting those sounds and letters every day. We're going to be working with Letters Alive to supplement our ABC BootCamp. We're going to, and again, a lot of this is so in the air because we don't know what school will look like. We're going to really be focused on the social emotional stuff. Morning meeting is huge for social emotional. And so we're already doing, we do morning meeting every day. And so morning meeting is now going to become even more important because it's going to give our kids that safe space to talk about the stress, the fear, the anxiety, the trauma that we've all been through. So if you're thinking about the social emotional piece of this and you want to be able to figure out a way to address that, morning meeting, that's where you want to spend some time. And if you're not doing morning meeting, that's a perfect way to start thinking about how to address some of that 10-week gap, because a big part of that will be that social emotional piece that we've talked a little bit about. So if you're looking for something that can help with that, morning meeting. And now we may not be sitting on the carpet shoulder to shoulder like we normally do, but we will still have a morning meeting. We will still have that greeting. We may just be sitting at our desks 6 feet apart or whatever, but we will still have that time every single day to where we can share and talk, because the more we're able to get our kids to talk about our feelings and our emotions, the more that we can, again, build that foundation. But that's a tool to move into addressing some of those academic gaps as well. And so morning meeting is a great place to start. So if you're familiar with morning meeting, then definitely make sure to incorporate that. If you're not familiar with morning meeting, we have a webinar and we have some great information on our website. So that's a powerful tool. We're talking about ABC BootCamp, incorporating Letters Alive and the journals and the rugs. We're going to hopefully engage families more. I think that's something that we've seen. This situation has definitely brought a light onto the
zookeeper.
Sorry, it's the zoo.
It's been going crazy. Engaging families, like we now know that we knew this before, that we can't do it without families, but now more than ever we know that. And so another tool for that 10-week gap is getting the families involved. One of the things that my administrators want from us in kindergarten with the use of Flipgrid, I'm not familiar with Flipgrid, so I can't answer a lot of questions about it yet. I've been tasked with figuring it out so I can teach my kids. But we want to be using that, even if we're full-time in the classroom, they want us using Flipgrid so that it's a seamless integration with, if we were to have to switch to remote learning in the middle of the year. And so, but it also engages the families every day. And that's something I think is another huge piece that we need to talk about, is the family support and being able to engage the families. We always do a thing in our classroom called Bring Your Family to School Day, where the families come in and they actually work with their kids in centers. And so now probably won't be able to do that this year, but we still need to find ways to engage the families, get the family involved more, because we can't do it alone. And especially if we have to suddenly stop in-person teaching and move to online learning, it's a great way to kind of make that as seamless as possible. So if we're looking kind of at a toolbox for that 10-week gap, we're going to morning meeting. We're going to, that's addressing that social emotional piece, which is going to be huge for our kids. Then we're talking about ABC BootCamp and Letters Alive to build that solid academic foundation. Then we're talking about the family engagement, the family involvement, family support, and what that will look like, and how that's going to happen, so that we can keep that learning going. And then thinking about over the summer, we've been talking about, this gap as the 10-week gap when we go back, but what can we do over the summer for families and students to alleviate that gap, whether, using the journals, using the Zoo Crew show. And so that's kind of where we're headed with our approach to that 10-week gap. There's not one easy answer. There's not one certain product or resource that works, but I hope that morning meeting, ABC Bootcamp, Letters Alive, and those resources, and then the family involvement piece is kind of where we're going. And that's kind of my plan, my outline of how to address that 10-week gap.
Yeah, that's good. And I was going to show you the journals live here. So Faith, you want to come and help me? So what Greg has in the class, and there's videos of him using it, but these are journals. And if you guys hang on, we've got a special that just for you folks on that are on this webinar, and I'll tell you about the special near the end. But we have these like $10 journals, and they're packed full of stuff. So, the kid gets their own, and inside they get these sticker badges, the animal sticker badges. I'll just throw that on the floor. And right here is the alphabet chart. And as the kids master their letters and sounds, they can put them there. But let's go visit Amos Alligator. I'm gonna have Faith here hold it. And I downloaded, I've got an iPad, but you can use a smartphone. I've downloaded my free app, and it makes it come alive. The animal come alive when I scan this. See this little letter bug right here? I'm gonna scan that. Woo, there's Amos Alligator. And you can move him around so you can take pictures. So you can take him outside in the grass or wherever you're at, take a picture. There's a video of me there. And then you've got these buttons here in the bottom to letter mode. And again, you could take pictures of the kids holding a letter or take it around the house. Take pictures of things that start with the letter A. I mean, it's super engaging, and it causes you to interact with other people, maybe a sibling or your parent. And you've got the uppercase, hear the letter.
A.
Short vowel.
A.
Long vowel. And then it has this trace function. And the cool thing is you can't learn to do it wrong.
She needs to stop sharing the screen. She's only this big.
Oh, sorry. It's like, don't share my screen. Sorry, did you guys miss that whole thing?
I think they did.
Sorry. Well, it was fantastic. No. All right, you know what? Let me start over. Let's get, I want you to see Amos. Where's the journal? It's right there. All right, sorry, let's do this again. You want to pick another animal just for fun?
Okay, let's do E.
E, because Edie Elephant is Greg's favorite.
Oh.
Yes.
So there's the letter bug. Can you see that? All right, now I'm going to scan it. Hopefully you can see it now. Ooh, yeah. Very loud. Thank you, Edie. Okay. So again, you can move Edie and you can take a picture. Like there's, you probably can't see it there, but you can take a picture. I said you could take Edie outside, around the house. And what I was saying is this is the letter mode. So you could take a picture with the letters, upper and lowercase, and then the name,
E,
short vowel,
Eh.
long vowel,
E, E.
trace the letter. And again, you can't learn to do it wrong, which is nice. So, because kids have got a very creative ways on how they're doing that. And you would do that with all 26 letters. And then if you want to show the activities, there's different activities on here. They're writing. They can now practice their writing here with a pencil or crayon. And, Greg, feel like if you want to chime in, you can. If I can hold this, hold on. I want to show that there's a writing. There's different activities. There's 4 different activities. And here's a writing one. Write a short story about Henry. So you can get a little bit, I love horses, and get some early writing in there. So that's Letters Alive, but we have a pre-K and a K version. And I'll show you math real quickly if you want to grab the math one. I can do kinder. I will go to math. Again, it's a free app.
Yeah, and they're great. I send them home with my kids, and so it's a great way to bridge that gap. And I saw somebody in the comments just now talking about how no matter what next year they're doing. As a teacher, she's decided to do blended learning, and so there's going to be an online component every day, which I think is a fantastic idea. Because again, it's bridging that gap, that family engagement gap, which will be a huge part of how we address the 10-week gap, is involving the families and having that online component from day one again, just makes things go seamless. And the more we can involve the families, the more we're able to have their support, and the more that our kids are able to practice at home, the more we can work on that 10-week gap. So that's another great way, is another great idea, suggestion, tool for your toolbox for that 10-week gap is have some sort of blended learning going on, no matter what our situation is next year, so that the families can be involved and that they can be supporting us at home.
Yeah, excellent. So I want to show you, here's Math Alive. We got pre-K and K. Now here you're going to feed the animals, which is really fun. So this is 0 through 20, and it also has 3D shapes. But here we're going to feed Henry Horse. Faith, if you can hold Henry Horse. It also has stickers for math. And there's the 7-letter bug. It says Henry Horse likes to eat carrots. Draw more carrots to make 7. And now we're going to feed them. So we're going to hover over that. Scan bug.
Feed Henry 7 carrots.
Yeah, okay, we're going to feed him.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Now I'm not going to feed him enough. Let's see what happens.
Uh-oh, you didn't feed him enough. Drag more food items into the 10 frame until 5, 6, 7, 8.
I'm going to overfeed him.
Aw, man, you fed him too much. Drag food items out of the 7. Perfect.
So I was learning, not enough, too much, just right. And then I go to learn the number.
7.
And now we're going to learn all about the number 7.
7. S-E-V.
Spell it.
E-N.
Tally
7.
marks.
1, 2, 3.
Count
4,
the number.
5. 1, 2.
So it's 1 to 1.
3, 4.
And
5,
then
7.
trace. Same idea. You can't learn to do it wrong. So that gives you a little flavor of letters and math, and then just like letters, you practice your handwriting, 7, and then there's some questions. There's 4 different activities, all about learning the numbers. So it's just a very fun and engaging way to interact with early literacy, both in reading and math. And the cool thing I wanted to share with you guys, on our Zoo Crew alphabet show, we, at the end of 3 shows so far, we've got a Come Alive surprise. So if you had our free app downloaded and you were watching it on a screen, any type of screen, do you see there's the letter bug right there? And if I just hover over it, oh, not with math though, let's get to letters. If I hover over it, watch what happens if you're in your living room. You just go like this. And so, right, so loud, right from the TV show, you can bring this alive for free in the home and do the same exercises. And so we've kind of just did that as a bonus, just to help parents out and get the kids excited. So hopefully that's, you know, some ways, Greg and so many other teachers have had a lot of success using these tools. So we're hoping that this is something at least you can learn about and use it during the summer or even back to school.
Hey, Cynthia, there were some questions in the chat. Is it okay if I kind of address a few?
Yes, please do.
Okay, so somebody asked about the morning meeting program that I follow. And so for morning meeting, I was originally trained by Responsive Classroom. And so we very loosely follow the Responsive Classroom model. So of course, we've tweaked it over the years to make it our own and to make it work for our classroom. So there's a greeting, a sharing time, an activity, and then the morning message. So that's kind of the model that we follow. And again, the morning meeting is going to be one of those tools that is going to be vital to addressing that 10-week gap, because we all know we can't address the academic piece until we address the social emotional needs of our kids. And we know coming into next school year, we're going to have a major social emotional issue that we're going to have to address, because all of us are going through trauma. We're all being affected by this. And so it's going to be huge to address the mental health of our students next year. And so morning meeting, again, is a great way to do that. So that's, and if you think about it, morning meeting is how we start the day. And so that is literally how we're going to start to address that 10-week gap every day, is we're going to start with morning meeting so that we can address the social emotional needs of our kids so we can focus on the academics. The other question was an example of blended learning. So what would that look like if we are in the classroom? So something that I already do with my families that has helped is, it's very simple. This year I used Remind, the Remind app, to communicate with my families. So what I did at the end of every school day was I sent a remind home to the families and said, hey, and today in class we learned about pumpkins and the life cycle of a pumpkin. And I'll say to them, so when your kids come home, talk to them about that. And so every day the families had a specific thing that they could talk to their kids about. Because what happens when our kids go home from school, what do they say? You say, hey, what did you guys learn at school today? What's their answer? Nothing. Yeah. So this way the families had something, they knew one thing that we learned at school so they could talk to their kids about it. So that's where I'm going to go with this blended learning model of, we're in the classroom full time, but I still want them doing something with Flipgrid at home. And so it will be basically like an extension activity. So let's say we worked on counting to 20 in the classroom. So maybe their job at home that night, almost like a little bit of homework, would be to collect and count 20 objects. So giving them just a little extension activity that they can do at home, so that, again, that learning continues with the family involvement, but also incorporating whatever tool you're using. Ours will be Flipgrid, so that it's all kind of seamless. So just as a way to kind of extend that, and it would not be something I required, but it would be something that I would suggest that the families do every day. And then a question about resources, some other resources that we'll be using. Lots of read-alouds, I think, again, with the social emotional piece, those read-alouds are going to be big for our kids because it opens up opportunities to talk about feelings. So lots and lots of read-alouds, lots of playtime, I think, is going to be huge. Getting them opportunities to play, even more so than what we do now in our classrooms, because they need that outlet. That's going to be another big component of our classroom. So So really, I kind of go through that list again. Morning meeting, ABC BootCamp with Letters Alive, family involvement with the journals, with the Zoo Crew show, through the use of Flipgrid, and extending our learning into the home. And then Read-Alouds, again, as a way to address that social emotional need. Playtime, even if they have to play, individually, they still are going to need that time to move and run and interact.
Yeah. So just to let people know, because I know we're kind of getting near the end, you can go to our website. It's alivestudiozoo.com. There's a lot of videos with Greg, and our information that I was trying to follow along is all in there. Our show is on YouTube. That's free. Great free resource. And it's just search on Zoo Crew Alphabet Show on that. And the special I wanted you guys to be aware of, if you go on the front of our page, it showed you the twin pack, the journals. Actually, I should probably share that again. So if you guys in the next 2 hours after this webinar decide to buy a twin pack, whether the pre-K or the kindergarten, we're going to throw in our Amos Alligator book. It also comes alive with the free app. And it's a lot of fun. Each page will come alive. It'll read to you. And it's normally $10. We're going to throw that in for free. You just put Smorgy as the code in the next 2 hours, and we'll include that in your order. And, all the information is on the website. We have time for maybe a few more questions, and then we can wrap it up.
Yeah, I saw a few more come through. Technology for remote learning. So our district provided laptops for 3rd through 8th grade, and then high schools as well. But what we did as a team at my school was we made videos each day. We did a reading video, a phonics video, a comprehension video, and a math video. And then we uploaded those to our YouTube channel, and we shared the links with the families because they all have at least a phone. And so they were able to watch those YouTube videos when it was convenient for them. And so it worked amazingly well for us. Our remote learning for kindergarten at my school, we had a 60% participation. Our district average was 25%. And so the reason that worked so well was because we talked to our families first and said, hey, how do you want us to do this? And YouTube was the one that they wanted. And so that's how we addressed remote learning with kindergarten. And it will be probably similar next if we have to do it again. Morning meeting is 15 to 20 minutes, sometimes a little shorter, sometimes a little longer. This year, I'm going to be more open to it going longer because I feel like we'll have a lot more things to talk about. So I think if you need to go a little longer in your morning meeting, this would be the year to do it because we are going to have to address so many of those social emotional needs. Let's see. There's another one. Where to go? So we start, somebody was asking, at what point do you see yourself starting the program next year? So we start ABC BootCamp on the 3rd day of school because that's our first full day. So we start ABC BootCamp on day 3. That's when we start with Letters Alive. And then every day we do a letter. And so we do Letters Alive, the animals each day as well. So we'll start on the 3rd day of school. Are they going to give you desks for the kids? Are you going to tape off? Again, we don't know. We have no guidance at all from our district for next year. So right now, I'm not thinking about it really. I'm not planning it. Once I have the guidance from the district, we'll start making some plans for our classroom next year. Technology for remote learning, we talked about that. Morning meeting. Desks. Any good resources to address this emotional distress of students that teachers could do a book? There are some really good morning meeting books available. I can't think of the names off the top of my head, but there's, if you go on Amazon and just type in morning meeting, there's some really good books. Responsive Classroom, their website is great for morning meeting resources and social emotional resources, and they'll have some good suggestions for books as well. Somebody said using Class Dojo, they took pictures throughout the school day and sent them to parents so parents knew what was going on. That's a fantastic idea. Again, any way that we can bridge that gap and increase our parenting and family involvement next year will be a huge component of addressing that 10-week gap. And I think parents are now going to be even more receptive to that, because we've kind of gone through this 2-month journey together with online learning. I think parents are going to be more receptive to that, because they're so used to seeing now what the kids are doing. They're going to want that to continue. And so I think being able, whether you use Seesaw or Dojo or Flipgrid or Remind, whatever app you're using, utilize that every single day. Even if we're full-time in the classroom, because again, it's that family involvement piece. Will I be doing Google Classroom or Seesaw activities for Kinder? We'll see. We're getting a lot of questions about that. I'm looking at it. I'm still trying to figure some things out, but definitely looking at some more technology pieces for my classroom and to share with everyone.
Greg, somebody else asked about using Seesaw Letters Alive, and I was told some teachers do a screen share, record it, and then send it out. So that's how some of them have been using it. I'm not that familiar with Seesaw, but that's what I've heard, and that's what I'm sharing.
If a child is absent from one of those days, how do you normally catch them up? So if a child misses a day, we have daily review built in. So with ABC BootCamp, it's 26 days, a letter and sound a day. But each day we also go through our alphabet chart every day. And so we do a daily review as well. And then also we're pulling them into small groups and in centers. And so they're still getting that instruction in the letter they missed. They just missed the animal in the circle chart, but they're still getting instruction in that letter and sound. Do you agree that live distance learning for kinders is not the best way to go? I do, absolutely. I think it was a necessity this year, and it may be a necessity at some point next year, but 100% nothing replaces being in that classroom with those kids, because it's number one, it's the relationship. And I think we've seen that this year more than ever. Because we all had those relationships with our kids, we were able to make that jump to teaching them on a screen. And I saw somebody earlier talk about the energy and the emotions and all of that. None of that can be replaced from being in the classroom. And that's the scary part of thinking about starting online next year, is we won't have the relationship. And so starting kindergarten from day one on a screen terrifies me. And so, because you don't have, like, what 5-year-old is going to sit down in front of a screen and look at a strange man who might be dressed up in a crazy costume and say, oh, that's my teacher, I'm going to listen to him. No, it's just not going to happen. No, I think we need to be in the classroom with our kids as if we can. Do I teach the words in order? We actually have done it both ways. We have taught the words in order, and we've taught, the letters in order and the letters out of order. The cool thing is that the data did not change at all. At the end, we still had the exact same results. So the order doesn't matter. What we noticed going out of order was that the kids weren't as excited, because they couldn't predict what came next. When you're doing them in ABC order, they can start to figure out the next letter, so that engagement increases a little bit. When we did them out of order, we didn't have that predictability, and kids like that predictability. Morning meeting is, I loosely follow responsive classroom. When you do the videos, do you have the students do something with you? Yeah, so what we're doing with remote learning was, they had a task they had to do. They had a literacy task and a math task. And so what they would do was, they would watch our videos, then they would do their task, and they would either send us a picture of the task or a video of the task. And so we were able to see what they were doing. Bitmoji, so I was saying they incorporated Bitmoji into their classroom and the kids loved it. I've seen lots of teachers doing that. I think that's a fantastic idea. Even next year, why not send home a flat Mr. Greg at the beginning of the year and let the kids interact with him at home and do things with it at home, you know? Facebook pages to follow. There's several Facebook groups, Kindergarten Teachers Unite. There is International Kindergarten Teachers Facebook page. There's lots of great Facebook groups and pages. And if you follow somebody on like Instagram or Twitter, they probably have a Facebook page as well. So if you're following somebody on social media, you can probably find them on Facebook as well. Let's see.
So why don't we take one more question, and then I'll tell them about the special one more time, just for some questions coming in, and we'll just wrap it up. It's for everybody. Pick a good one. So while you're doing that,
I think we got them all.
you got them all?
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, hopefully that was helpful for everybody. I'll mention the special one more time. These are the twin packs. If you go to our website, you'll see them there. And when you click on the shop now, you just mentioned Smorgy. These are $19.98 for the twin pack. You put in Smorgy and we'll know to include the free Amos book. You won't see it in the order, but we'll know in the next 2 hours to include that free for you guys. And we'll ship them out Tuesday. If not tomorrow, they'll go out Tuesday for you guys. So you guys were wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Greg, for sharing what you're going to be doing for back to school. I'm so honored that we're a part of that, and would love to, help others too. So we're here for you guys. We love you, and have a great long weekend. Well, it's like we've been on like a month, 2 months.
Right.
Anyway.
And I think we'll definitely be doing some more stuff together to address the 10-week gap, and so we'll be sharing more as the summer goes on.
Yeah.
So stay tuned.